It was perhaps the most chaotic parliament had ever been. The opposition was against the passing of the Security Laws Amendment Bill. The amendments in December 2014 contained contentious clauses which the opposition felt would infringe on fundamental rights and freedoms. And even though they did all they could to stop the passing of the laws, they did not succeed. The laws were still passed.
Sergeant at Arms!
Speaker Justin Muturi has a reason why the laws are to sail through despite the controversies and opposition.
If I allowed that scheme of derailing a legitimate process to happen, I would have gone down in history as one person that killed Parliament. Because it meant that any time in the future, if people didn't want something, rather than come and argue, persuade their colleagues, you come and disrupt. I mean, that surely, that would have shown a great weakness on my part. And I'm not weak.
It may have been a Pyrrhic victory for Jubilee, however. Immediately, the opposition went to court and got orders stopping the implementation of the laws. After the case was heard, a 5-judge bench declared 8 clauses of the law unconstitutional. Such clauses as the one limiting the number of refugees that the country could allow to 150,000 and hefty fines that had been imposed on media houses should they publish or broadcast images or information on terror attacks. Some Jubilee MPs have criticized the judiciary's actions, but even here opposition MPs differ.
The constitution we have today gives powers into one institution with one hand and takes it away with the other. When you say it is the responsibility of Parliament to pass laws, then you leave another institution somewhere else to say, no, the laws you passed, they are not correct. Then we are conflicting ourselves.
Legislation is the work of Parliament, but that legislation enacted by Parliament has to be tested against the Constitution. So it's about separation of powers. It's about each arm checking on the other. And so we have the courts, stepping in on a petition by the people to check on the constitutionality of laws passed by Parliament. And that is the way it should be. It happens everywhere.
But besides the contentious laws, MPs from both sides agree that the current Parliament has achieved a lot.
I can tell you in the area of family law, succession and all those issues, you've seen, we currently have a new Marriage Act. For the first time in the history of this country, we have the new Matrimonial Properties Act. I can tell you, before the enactment of that law by Parliament, which people tend to forget, the law we were relying on was an 1882 English law. So the Companies Act, you remember, we were relying on was a 1948 law. So this Parliament has had so many firsts.
The opposition MPs point to the tyranny of numbers held by the ruling coalition as the reason for most of the acrimony in the House and claim that the Jubilee MPs have not been independent but have been on a course to support whatever the executive wanted done.
I would request, those of us who would be lucky to come to the 12th Parliament to remember that we are a presidential system and the business of Parliament is essentially not to sustain the executive in the manner the challenge of tyranny of numbers has pegged us down, so that this Parliament that will be coming in can be more independent, a bit more apolitical, and can look at issues without considering who is at State House and what that person is thinking.
The tension between the two sides of Parliament was also evident late last year and at the beginning of this year during the debate and passing of amendments to the election laws.
The Constitution says that it is the majority which carries the day. Then there's nothing much you can do about it. It is democracy, and that is how democracy is. It is the majority have their way and minority have their say, and we need to respect that.
This is a Parliament that has fought each other. We fought so hard until people poured water and people threw each other down the floors and others were expelled. It means it's busy, it's working, and it's fighting for rights of the people.
Other laws that have been challenged in the courts and overturned include the CDF Act, which, although had not been passed by the current Parliament, was argued to be creating a third level of government, the constituency, which was not in the Constitution, and was giving members of Parliament a role not theirs according to the Supreme Law. There were also the amendments to the Insurance Act, which capped damages passengers in motor vehicle accidents could get to 3 million shillings. The role of the judiciary in lawmaking has ensured that even with a majority in parliament, the ruling party may not always have its way because some of its actions may be challenged in the courts. Andrew Ochieng, NTV.